Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A 58-year-old white man has been arrested in Florida as part of what the FBI believes was an attempted assassination of Donald Trump at his golf club in West Palm Beach. A Secret Service agent fired shots Sunday after seeing an armed man hiding in the bushes about 300 to 500 yards from where the former president was playing golf. The suspect, Ryan Routh, was later detained. An AK-47 was found at the spot where he'd been hiding in the bushes. Routh has been described as a former Trump voter who traveled to Ukraine last year to help recruit foreigners to fight against Russia. In 2002, he was charged with possession of a weapon of mass destruction. Sunday's incident came 2 months after a gunman shot Trump in the ear at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The U.S. State Department's approved a new $165 million arms deal for Israel to help fund heavy-duty tank trailers. This comes as the official death toll from Israel's war on Gaza has topped 41,200. On Saturday, an Israeli airstrike on a house in Gaza City killed 11 Palestinians, including 4 children. Al Jazeera reports Israel also killed at least 10 Palestinians in a strike on a home in the Nuseirat refugee camp.
Our neighbors here are all under the rubble, a family under the rubble, a man, his wife, their children, and the neighbors next to them. We were able to remove around 9 martyrs, all of them children in pieces.
Israel's admitted there's a, quote, high probability that 3 Israeli hostages who died in Gaza in November were killed in an Israeli air attack. In the occupied West Bank, an Israeli sniper has fatally shot an employee of the UN refugee agency UNRWA. Sufyan Jaber Abed Jawad is the first UNRWA staff member to be killed in the West Bank in more than a decade. Israel's vowing to retaliate after Houthi fighters from Yemen fired a missile into central Israel Sunday. No direct injuries were reported. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to retaliate. In Turkey, hundreds of mourners gathered Saturday for the funeral of 26-year-old Ayşenur Ezgi Aygi, the Turkish-American activist who was fatally shot in the head by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank when she was peacefully protesting. President Joe Biden has called the shooting totally unacceptable. But the news outlet Zateo reports neither Biden nor Vice President Kamala Harris have reached out yet to her family since her death over a week ago. Ayşenur graduated this year from the University of Washington in Seattle. She lived in Seattle since she was less than 1 year old. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance are continuing to repeat racist comments about Haitian immigrants living in Springfield, Ohio, including false claims about immigrants eating cats and dogs. During a CNN interview, Vance admitted he was willing to, quote, create stories.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has vowed to mass deport Haitians in Springfield, even though many have TPS, temporary protected status. Over the past week, bomb threats have forced the closure of several public schools and city buildings in Springfield. Colleges in the city have moved to virtual classes this week after receiving threats. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, a military court sentenced 37 people to death for trying to overthrow Congo's president. The group includes 3 Americans. The men are accused of attacking the presidential palace and the home of an ally of President Félix Tshisekedi in May. 8 asylum seekers died when their vessel sunk in the English Channel as they attempted to cross from France to the UK. The deceased were from Eritrea, Sudan, Syria, Egypt, Iran, and Afghanistan. A number of survivors were rushed to the hospital after a rescue operation overnight Saturday, including a 10-month-old baby with hypothermia. Earlier this month, at least 12 migrants died making the same journey. Rights groups condemned the UK and European governments for failing to provide safe asylum routes. Amnesty International calling it a, quote, yet another appalling and avoidable tragedy. In Honduras, a prominent anti-mining activist was gunned down Saturday as he left a church in his northeastern town of Toccoa. Juan Lopez was a member of the ruling Libre Party and campaigned against open-pit iron ore mining. This is Juan Lopez speaking 3 years ago.
It is not gold or silver or any of these metals which makes a nation wealthy, but it is the agriculture. Our voices of dignity and sovereignty have not died. They keep getting stronger.
A new report by Global Witness found Honduras had the third highest number of murders of environmental defenders, tied with Mexico, with 18 recorded killings last year. The Venezuelan government's arrested 6 foreigners, including 3 Americans, for allegedly being involved in a plot to destabilize the country. Venezuela's Interior Ministry accused the 6 of being part of a CIA-led effort aimed at assassinating Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and other high-ranking officials. The U.S. State Department rejected the claim, calling it, quote, categorically false. Mexico's highly contested judicial reform went into effect Sunday. In recent weeks, judges and other court workers have launched a wave of protests against the judicial overhaul, which will allow for the election of judges by popular vote. President Manuel López Obrador celebrated the reform as he signed it into law.
Que se acabe la simulación, porque se hablaba también de que vivíamos.
Let's put an end to the simulation, because we also talked about living in a democracy. But no, an oligarchy was in power. Those who ruled were the ones at the top, a minority with a facade of democracy. That was a simulation. Now it is different. It is the people who are in charge, and it is the people who decide how it is to put into practice what Article 39 of our Constitution says, that our people have at all times the right to change the way of their government.
President López Obrador was sitting next to his successor, President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum, who will be sworn in October 1st. In Burma, flooding and mudslides from Typhoon Yagi have killed at least 100 people. Dozens are still missing. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced. The overall death toll from Yagi, which also swept through Vietnam, Thailand, and southern China, is now at roughly 400 people. Millions more have been displaced or lost their homes or businesses. Separately, Typhoon Babinka brought Shanghai to a standstill as it made landfall earlier today. It's the strongest storm to hit the bustling Chinese city since 1949. Climate change is making extreme weather events like typhoons more frequent and deadlier. Meanwhile, catastrophic flooding has led to at least 8 deaths in Central and Eastern Europe as rivers have been bursting their banks from torrential downpours. The most affected countries are Romania, the Czech Republic, Poland, and Austria. This all comes as NASA says last month set a new temperature record for the month of August, making the summer's Earth hottest since global record-taking began in 1880. The previous hottest summer on record was last year. Here in New York, Mayor Eric Adams' counsel and chief legal advisor resigned Saturday night amidst multiple federal investigations into the Adams administration. Lisa Zornberg resigned Saturday night 2 days after New York Police Commissioner Edward Caban resigned. And in Colorado, a judge freed the white paramedic who was convicted of homicide for injecting Elijah McClain with ketamine in 2019, which led to the McClain death in the hospital soon after. Peter Sekuniak had been serving a 5-year sentence for McClain's death before a judge converted it on Friday to 4 years probation. McClain, an unarmed 23-year-old black man, had been walking home from a convenience store when he was assaulted by Aurora police who put him in a carotid hold before paramedics administered an excessive dose of ketamine into his system. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.